Welcome to JoshuaGaming.com. Today's lesson is about money. We're comparing paper money to precious metals being used as money. And since the beginning of time, precious metals have been used as money. And the reason that they work so well as money is because you have a medium of exchange. So it's hard if I'm a fisherman and somebody else is a goldsmith and somebody else makes clothes. It's hard for us to all, and then another person grows food. It's hard for us all to get what we need in trade, because the person that has fish might need clothes, but the person that has clothes doesn't need fish. Maybe they need bricks or whatever it is. So you need some kind of medium of exchange. So precious metals have been used as a medium of exchange since the beginning of time, and for thousands of years governments have tried to manipulate money and monetary policy by substituting in paper notes to be used as money instead of gold or silver. And it actually started with goldsmiths. They would store gold for people and then just give them a receipt, and then that way people didn't have to store all their gold, because it's bulky and it's kind of hard to do. So people began just exchanging the notes directly instead of going and cashing out for their gold every time and then trading that, because it was easier to just swap notes. The goldsmith got smart and realized that he didn't actually need to hang on to all the gold. He could actually make loans out on other people's gold and get interest on that, and no one would ever know or care, because as long as he always had enough gold in supply to satisfy the people that came to redeem their receipts, that he would be fine, and he only needed a certain percentage of that, which gave way to fractional reserve banking. All that to say, the paper, when governments can issue paper notes, they can create as much artificial money and artificial credit as they want, and the theory behind that is that it will create a better economy because there's more money going around for everybody. But in all actuality, what it does, any country that goes to a paper currency and debases their currency always self-destructs, and the currency always expires worthless. This has been happening for thousands of years. Real popular and famous for this is Rome, the decline of the Roman Empire. Government has to declare value on paper money. Paper money has no value unless the government declares that, but gold, it can't be produced, so it's always going to be exchangeable, it's always going to be acceptable. And Ron Paul had a good visualization. He said, if $5,000 in paper money sinks to the bottom of the ocean and sits there for 500 years, no one cares. I mean, it's going to be probably ruined anyways. If $5,000 in gold sinks to the bottom of the ocean and sits there for 500 years, that's going to have tremendous value for somebody to go down and get that. Not only the numismatic value of that it was on a sunken ship inside the bottom of the ocean for 500 years, but just the value of the gold itself. So that kind of gives you an idea of the comparison between the two. And it's just crazy. Our politicians have absolutely no understanding of monetary policy or how money works. And money is important because it's half of every single transaction, so it affects everything that we do. Money, and the way that money is created and manipulated, is what actually causes the business cycle, this basic free market economics, in which nobody in politics understands, or frankly, maybe they just don't care about it. They're too concerned with votes in the short term, which I'll get into a little bit here in a minute. A few years back, a member of the Financial Services Committee actually said to Ron Paul, said, I heard you talking about gold and whatnot. He said, isn't it true that we're still on a gold standing, i.e. that our dollar is still backed by gold? And this is a lady that had been on the banking committee in Washington for several years. Still thought we were backed by gold. I mean, that just gives you an idea of the money, the knowledge of money that people in the Senate and in Congress have. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. So Washington doesn't understand the importance of monetary policy and basic economics. They're much too concerned with getting votes and keeping power for their party, whether that be Democrats or Republicans, in the short term. And credit is just way too easily available, and it's really created a run. The last 40 years have been great for America. We've been able to issue as much credit, as much money as we wanted, because basically everybody in the world thought that the dollar was gold for the last 40 years, and now we're coming to a quick realization that it's not, and that's why we're seeing the collapse that we are. But credit's way too easily available, and it actually causes the business cycle. And in a capitalistic society, one works for what he needs, and what he has left over, he invests, or someone else reinvests it for him, right? And but because of our current money system, there's no incentive to save, because the dollar is constantly being depreciated, and we're actually taught to spend, and that's what, as consumers, drives the economy. But if you don't save, then how's there anything to lend? How does Billy and Mary go in, and how do they get a mortgage and buy a new house? I mean, if nobody's saving, where's that money coming from? Because it's artificial credit created by the Federal Reserve System. And the Federal Reserve System, the Federal Reserve was given the power and authority by Congress, contrary to the Constitution, to print money out of thin air. That's essentially what they do. The Fed prints money, and money into circulation, and then that money in circulation is multiplied through what is known as fractional reserve banking. So if the Federal Reserve creates $1 billion and puts that in as a reserve, that actually creates $8 billion, which goes into the economy and devalues the rest of the dollars in the economy. Some weeks the Federal Reserve prints as much as $5, $10, $20 billion into circulation, and most people don't even have a clue. You know, whatever is necessary to fix interest rates, because that's essentially what they do. They're price fixers. The Federal Reserve System creates credit, but it's fraudulent, and it's theft. Because if you go to the bank and they offer you $1 million, you're going to take it, and most of us would. But it doesn't have value. It only becomes valuable by diluting the value of someone else's savings, right? If there is anybody out there still saving money. So those people would then be being robbed of value, because the value of their dollar is going down. Meanwhile, you get the credit because you get the $1 million and the free easy money. So it's a really bad system, and it's never worked. And if the argument is that, you know, since we cut the gold standard in '71, we've had this biggest boom for 40 years, well, maybe it did kind of work, but no, we're seeing the cards crash down right now, and frankly, we've the value that we've got, we've just stole from the rest of the world, and you know, now they're starting to catch on to it, and you know, the first shall be last, and the last shall be first. So the good book says.